Thanks, Donna, and thanks to everyone for attending. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. Hopefully we're back on track now. We do respect your busy schedules, and as with the other webinars in our series, we've kept the duration relatively short to try to make it easier to fit into your day. We do hope that you find the content interesting and it sparks some creative ideas or motivates you to take some next steps to improve your own supply chains. Hopefully you can pick up even one key point or concept that you can apply to your business from this today, and it'll make your time spent with us worthwhile. Hopefully you'll pick up more than one, but let's jump right in. So as Donna stated, our company, Take Supply Chain, we recently completed a survey that's focused on 3PL and CMO outsourcing topics, and I will be sharing a summary of those results with you today. This slide provides some context to that survey. We had 119 participants. The companies and participants who responded were located in all regions, Americas, EMEA, Asia Pacific, and the companies are also part of many industries. You can see the industries represented there on the slide. Also, when we refer to the acronym 3PL or CMO within the context of the survey or the slides, 3PL, we're referring to third-party logistics company. Generally, they're focused on warehousing, transportation, logistics services. They typically operate inbound or outbound materials warehouses, cross docks. They also typically manage the inbound or outbound transportation planning and execution. The term CMO, Contract Manufacturing Organization, some folks refer to them as CMs or contract manufacturers. As the name implies, they're generally focused on manufacturing. They operate manufacturing facilities and do that work on behalf of their clients. Amongst 3PLs and CMOs, there are specialist or niche companies that focus on very specific activities or industries, and there's also some broader end-to-end players. The lines can get blurred across CMOs and 3PLs because sometimes some of them will have competencies that are typically found in the other. For example, some contract manufacturers are pretty adept at managing outbound FGI and outbound shipping processes and can do some transportation planning, and vice versa. Some 3PL companies do some light manufacturing, sometimes referred to as drop in the box or configuration, final assembly within their warehouses prior to executing the shipment. So within that context, let's go ahead and take a look at the survey results. So survey participants indicated that primary reasons for outsourcing, number one, was cost reduction. You can see that was 61%. Note that every region chose that as their number one reason. It was overwhelmingly the most common response. That's probably driven by expectations or experience that folks have in outsourcing, that when they do outsource, it allows the partners to aggregate volumes across different companies, get more economies of scale. Often also that outsourced activity can be located in a region with lower labor or lower overhead costs. Number two, overflow management was at 14%. That's basically like capacity flexibility. Number three, global and U.S. market expansion at 11%. Again, that's likely driven by expectations or experience that folks have when they're outsourcing. It's a pretty fast way to expand into new markets, increase your sales, especially if those new markets require some kind of localized expertise, localized language skills or experience. You can quickly get into those markets with a partner. And the other category was kind of fourth on the list, 14%. It's a combination of different reasons. Some of the most common ones within that category, the desire to access professional capabilities that don't exist in-house, the desire to minimize fixed costs or assets on a company's own balance sheet, and also to allow your company to focus on other core competencies that they believe are more strategic to their business than what they're outsourcing. So those are some of the primary reasons that we saw in the survey. Survey participants also indicated that they are planning to either maintain or increase their use of outsourcing. This is true for both the contract manufacturing and 3PL outsourcing. 30% of participants said they're planning to increase the amount of volume that they outsource, and only about 6 to 8% of participants across both categories said they're planning to decrease the amount that they outsource. One key distinction is noted on the slide there. 90% of participants said that they outsource less than half of their manufacturing volume, but 40% of participants said that they outsource more than half if it's logistics volume out to 3PLs. So it appears most companies wanted to keep the majority of their manufacturing volume in-house and only give out some of that volume to their contract manufacturing partners, but companies appear to be a bit more willing to give the majority, if not all, of their logistics volume out to 3PL partners. So perhaps logistics is seen as a little less strategic than manufacturing for some of these companies. The next slide gets into the most common challenges that participants said they face when they're outsourcing. So number one on that list of challenges was communication. You can see that 48% of participants listed this as a top concern. In our experience, typical challenge areas in communication include things like manual communication. Often when outsourcing, there is some email, fax, phone, spreadsheet, manual communication that's set up. It takes a lot of time and resources to manage that. It's also error-prone. Also, managing different communication methods and formats across different partners. For example, if you do use electronic communication like EDI or XML, it can be time-consuming to set up and manage. Also, different partners typically require different communication protocols or different message formats, and that can be a challenge. Also just different time zones, time differences can cause delays. Undocumented decisions, discussions, instructions generally lead to errors and confusion when they're not documented or they're manual. Kind of tied for that number one challenge on the list, it was also at 48% as a top concern, is the lack of visibility or control. In our experience, again, typical challenges in the areas of visibility and control, lack of real-time status of your inventory or your production or shipment from the outsourced partner locations. Companies lack the ability to quickly affect the process without some kind of manual communication with the partner. And many companies do get access to partner information, but it's only through a one-way data view, kind of like a read-only. They can see the information, but there's not an automated method for true two-way collaboration with that partner. The third challenge, as indicated by participants, it was at 40%, was cost management. And remember, cost reduction came out as the top reason that participants chose to outsource. So it's not too surprising that cost management is high on the list of top challenges when they do outsource. Cost within the outsourcing relationship is always going to get scrutinized very closely. In our experience, some of the typical challenges and challenge areas in cost management are things like you've got vague contract terms or metrics, so you're not clearly aligned with your partner regarding expectations. Also, per the previous slide, manual processes, they drive a lot of inefficiencies, and that impacts overall cost. Excess resource requirements to manage those manual processes. You often get more frequent delays, which can lead to higher expedite costs from your partners. Higher error rates leads to more product returns, reduced customer satisfaction. All these things impact. Scheduling and coordination was the number challenge, as indicated by participants. It was at 39%. Typical challenges in that area, things like production output, customer deliveries aren't predictable. You've got more links, more complexity in the supply chain with your different outsourcing partners. Makes it a bit more difficult to respond to disruptions. And you also see inventory mismatches. It's sometimes difficult to integrate or reconcile inventory across partner systems and your systems. At 37%, this was the number 5 challenge indicated by participants, and it was customer satisfaction. Again, typical challenge areas that we've seen, ensuring consistent product quality when working with your partners, ensuring on-time delivery reliability, order fulfillment accuracy, slow response times regarding customer requests for information or shipment status. Those can all be challenges that impact customer satisfaction. And these three challenges were a bit further down the list, as indicated by the participants, but they're all important. Product quality, inventory shortages, regulatory issues. All these challenges, as you can imagine, they do have impacts, and they relate to some of the previously discussed challenges that were a bit higher on the list, like customer satisfaction, cost management, scheduling, coordination. Obviously, if you've got bad quality or you're running out of inventory or have regulatory issues, you can impact all of those things. So these are all interrelated to some extent, even though they were further down the list. So what did the survey respondents say that they're planning to do to address the outsourcing challenges that they currently face? So this slide summarizes what respondents said they're planning to do. You can see increased data integration was at the top at 48%. Maybe implementing a supplier or a partner portal was at 35%. Workflow automation, 26%. 25% of folks said, hey, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. 16% are planning to add more staff, and the other category was 7%. Some of the representative comments, just cut and pasted right out of the survey, are shown there at the bottom. Things like trying to get better communication and share best practices with our partners, focus a bit more on metrics or standard management practices, more regular telephone or email contact to make sure changes are clear, and also, more robust focus on metrics or KPIs or contract language. In looking at these overall responses, it appears that there's only a small number of participants that are planning to implement some type of additional manual process, like adding staff or doing more email or phone contact. Most of the participants seem to be planning to invest in some type of more advanced or automated solution, like increasing your data integration with partners, a portal, a supplier portal, or increasing the use of automation, workflow automation. So in the next section, I'll go into a bit more detail regarding 6 of the most common pain points, and I'll share a bit more information about potential solutions for those pain points. So pain point number 1 is communication issues. The issues that related to communication, they can manifest themselves in different ways. Some of the common issues that you see, execution problems. You've got late shipments or inaccurate shipments. Maybe you've got the wrong product or options, wrong services, the on-time delivery is off, you've chosen the wrong transportation method. Those are all some of the symptoms of poor communication. Generally, you see unclear or lost communication trails. Sometimes that leads to finger pointing and blame with your partner. Your partner will say, hey, it's not my fault, that's your fault. You didn't give me the information correctly, or it was your system. Without better processes, especially if you're using manual processes, it's hard to find the data to objectively measure the timing or what was communicated and when. The root cause, as you can imagine, of a lot of communication issues starts with manual processes and manual communication. If you're communicating, telephone, fax, email, spreadsheet, it leads to slower cycle times. There's more human error. You do lose that information in history. Manual processes are especially risky if you're working across different time zones or regions that have different languages or cultures. Some of the solutions that you can look at to help with the communication, number 1 is a collaboration console. If you can automate the communication of your key business documents, like your purchase orders, your sales orders, acknowledgments from your partners, shipments, getting visibility and automated visibility of those shipments, and even the ability to include attachments to some of these documents to make sure communication is clear. Those are some of what you can get out of a good collaboration console. Also, these consoles tend to bring together data from multiple different host company and partner systems into one common view. You can automate the business processes and add workflow to that, and that's very key. You can set up rules and parameters that will create alerts and notify you if an exception occurs and it's outside of your chosen parameters. Also, these types of consoles do help you keep clear records of transactions and communication history. Some of the solutions even have the ability where you can chat with your partners via the portal and attach the contents of that chat to your business document so you don't lose that record and you can see it. Also, many of these collaboration consoles are available via a cloud subscription. Typically via the cloud you can implement a little faster, maybe a little cheaper, especially up front. The bottom line, speed and accuracy, it's critical in our fast-moving, higher volume business environments, especially working with partners. You can't compete, you can't have a world-class process if you're still working with manual processes. The number 2 common pain point or issue is visibility and control. The typical issue is that companies lack the real-time status of a partner's production, shipping, or inventory balances at the partner sites. In addition, companies often lack the ability to quickly affect the process or intervene if they see something out of line without having to manually communicate with their partner. Some of the root causes of this, you don't have any automated integration between your system and your partner systems, or if there is some kind of sharing of information, it's only one way. It's like look but don't touch kind of information portal. An example, I previously worked with a manufacturing company that had a vendor managed inventory program, and they did give their supplier access to inventory balances, but they did it by updating and emailing a spreadsheet to their supplier once a day. It's a step in the right direction, but it still wasn't really real-time information. It was once a day, and there wasn't a method for any kind of two-way automated collaboration. It was still pretty much a manual transaction. The partner would see the email, look at the balance. They would have to go into another system, execute against POs and shipments to make that happen. So it wasn't really a two-way collaborative process. Some of the solutions, a single integrated collaboration console that will provide that kind of real-time status information and be able to pull that information from multiple different systems across both the host company and the partner systems. It's important that includes some self-service visibility on both sides, so all parties can go in, they can see real-time information, they can see status, and also provide that two-way collaboration. So you can actually go in, see what's going on. You can share purchase orders or sales orders with partners. They can, within that portal, actually execute transactions and send an acknowledgement to you against that PO or SO. And especially important for visibility and control, in the portal, if you can create package tracking numbers and advanced shipment notifications, that really helps with the visibility and making everyone stay up to date with the status of those shipments. The portal can even be updated with receipt information when the item is physically received, and it can also go as far as being able to do invoices from suppliers all through the portal. It's also critical from a visibility control perspective that you can access the portal, execute transactions from mobile devices, like smartphones, tablets. Time is of the essence. You can't afford to wait for a key approver or a stakeholder to be at their desk, to be alerted if there's a process that requires their attention. So that mobile access is very critical in the visibility control process. A third common pain point, this is number 3, is cost management. Typical issue, you outsource with different partners. The companies find maybe they're not achieving the expected or targeted cost savings from outsourcing that they desired. Some of the root causes, number 1, vague contract terms or metrics. Whenever you're outsourcing, working with partners, it's mandatory to set crystal clear cost and performance expectations with your partners, and that includes things like, exactly how costs are going to be measured and by what metrics. If you've got any incentives for your partners in there to perform, meeting or exceeding your expectations. You want to make sure that there's clear accountability for your partner for specific activities. You don't want them to be able to point their finger back at you and say, hey, it's not my fault, this was your data or your system. All these kind of things should be clearly documented in your contract or your statement of work. Another common cause of not meeting your cost-saving goals and having cost management issues, as described on the previous slide, manual processes, they're a killer when you're outsourcing. If you're relying on phone, fax, email, spreadsheet to do a lot of the communication, it's definitely going to cause trouble. Again, slower cycle times, more human errors, you lose the history, and it requires a lot of people and resources to maintain those manual processes. Companies often find that they've outsourced an activity or they've outsourced a function, but they don't get the headcount reduction that they expect, especially if they're now collaborating with manual processes. Often they've got just as many people, if not more, now focusing on that new activity of we've got to manage our partner, we've got to manage the communication, manage the metric calculations, work with exceptions, reconcile data across the different systems and their partner systems. So the inefficiency of these manual process can also lead to higher number of expedited shipments as well as increased returns. All these things drive higher costs and also higher resources. Some of the solutions to help in this area, number one, focus and prioritize your time and your resources on thorough contract preparation. Excuse me. If you cut costs with your contract, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you later. You want to have very clear metrics, how they're measured, how they're calculated. Again, if you have partner incentives or accountability, you want them documented. It's important that you have very clear and agreed upon baseline metrics, so both you and your outsourced partner are confident that you have an accurate starting point when you start measuring their performance and measuring improvements in cost. I think it's good to consider putting incentives in that contract where your partner can actually receive bonuses if they exceed your highest priority metrics. Could be around volume or efficiency metrics, cost-saving metrics like inbound or outbound shipping costs, ability to consolidate freight. Could be error reductions, accuracy like cycle count, inventory adjustments, et cetera. Can also, the flip side is true, can have penalties in that contract too if they have substandard performance against your metrics. A quick example, I previously worked with a high-tech company. We had an inbound materials hub that was located in Northern California. It was outsourced completely to a 3PL, and that 3PL acted as a single point of contact for arranging all of the inbound transportation into that hub from suppliers that were located all over the world. We did actually build into that contract with the 3PL some incentives for them to reduce the number of expedited shipments and increase the number of freight forwarder or standard shipments and consolidations that came into the hub. That was one of our big cost drivers. We ended up paying them a bit more in bonuses because they did hit the results and they were happy about that. But they also saved us a ton of money. We saved over $1 million by taking the percentage of expedites down from 15% to 5%. So I know I've had some personal experience just with being real clear with the contract and documenting those things, and it can really pay off. Number two, if you can leverage an automated tool for supplier relationship management or contract management, there's some good ones out there. They help you ensure that your contracts are clear, they're up to date, you and your partners are aligned on the expectations, also helps your contract team work a bit more efficiently. And number three, investing in a collaboration console with more of a focus on the workflow automation and the dashboards and the metrics. Again, these kind of consoles can really shorten your cycle times, reduce errors and delays, automate your business process and your workflow, the rules, parameters for creating alerts, making sure things stay on track. You want your people to not spend a lot of time, manually processing transactions and tactical work, and you want them to focus on the higher value, more strategic activities. We refer to that as management by exception, MBE. So a good tool will really help you do that. Also, it can help automate the calculation and sharing of metrics and KPIs via the dashboards. So cost reduction, it is the top reason that companies do choose to outsource. So the tools and techniques around that enable the cost savings, they're obviously very important. The fourth common pain point is around scheduling issues. Typical issue is your production output or your customer deliveries are less predictable than you desired. This has negative impacts, obviously, on customer satisfaction and your costs. Some of the root causes of the scheduling issues, poor communication with your outsourced partners, especially regarding your longer-term demand forecasts and requirements. Could be that you don't send the forecasts at all, or they're not timely, or the cycle, it's manual, it takes too long. The result, your partners, they're not able to proactively ensure that they have the required materials, labor, or capacity in place when they need it to execute. Secondly, you've got partners, it adds more links, more locations in your supply chain. It does create a higher risk of disruptions, especially if you've got long manual cycle times, you're not very fast to respond. Some of the solutions to help with these scheduling issues, you can invest in a collaboration console, and particularly with a focus on demand forecast collaboration. Some of the benefits are you can actually send automated forecasts to your partners. The partners can view those quickly. They can work with their supply base, their internal teams, and they can come back and provide you with a solid commitment against that forecast. You can see and access that in the portal and actually integrate that commitment back into your systems. Number two, a collaboration console needs to focus also on the workflow automation, the alerts, exceptions. Again, the benefits of that automation, it shortens your overall cycle time, and that's critical when you've got that extended supply chain. It makes your supply chain a lot more agile. You're faster in responding to disruptions. Again, you can automate your processes, your workflows, help you select proper transportation methods or carriers if there's disruptions and communicate those quickly. All these solutions, they'll help you avoid scheduling surprises, help you respond more quickly when disruptions or exceptions occur. A fifth common pain point is around vendor onboarding and inventory issues. Typical issues, it's difficult or it's inefficient to onboard new partners. You've got inventory mismatches, reconciliation problems. Those are some of the most common issues that you see. Root causes, lack of a common onboarding tool set. So many companies have not established a common onboarding tool set. They end up treating each new partner onboarding or setup as a one-off project. This kind of one-off approach obviously consumes a lot of resources, takes a lot of time, especially if you need to set up multiple partners or if you change partners frequently. If you can create a common, repeatable onboarding tool set, you can approach each onboarding more like a plug-and-play instead of a one-off project. A key point that many companies often miss is the starting point to get to such a repeatable tool set has got to be creating and documenting common business processes. A lot of folks jump right to the IT side, and they'll try to get common message formats and integration, protocols and metrics and such. But if you don't start with common business processes, it's virtually impossible to establish leverageable, repeatable, system integrations and metric formats. If each partner has some different business processes, you can't get to that plug and play that you want to. Second common root cause, lack of flexible partner integration options. One size doesn't fit all. It's important that you offer your partners more than one integration option. As an example, some very, very large or high volume partners, they can likely afford to integrate and they've got the resources to integrate with EDI or XML. But if you've got smaller or mid-sized, lower volume partners, they'll likely prefer something like a web portal. So it's good to, have those integration options. The third is, inefficient inventory systems where you don't have good integration and reconciliation processes with your partner. When you're working with outsourced partners, it's critical to be very clear regarding what is the system of record for different transactions, especially for inventory. Is it your ERP system? Is it your partner's ERP system? Is it their WMS system? And once you establish that system of record, it's important to have very efficient ways to integrate and reconcile the inventory across your systems to make sure that both of your systems stay in sync. Usually manual reconciliations don't work too well. Some of the solutions, establish those common business processes and onboarding tool sets. You want to move more towards a plug-and-play onboarding process. Also establish a communication, a collaboration console that gives you that flexible integration options. You can hook it up with EDI, XML, SFTP, web portal, a variety of options to integrate with different systems with your partners. And it's also important to be ERP or system agnostic. It makes it a lot easier for your partners to get onboarded, a lot more willing for them to accept working with you on that portal. Also, the ability to show dashboards with inventory status and trigger alerts if there's discrepancies that occur. That's also very helpful. So, many outsourcing projects will fail. It's a great idea, the concept is there, but if they can't efficiently onboard their partners, or it takes too long, or you can't keep the inventory reconciled accurately across the partner system and your system, it causes all sorts of pain. So it's very important to get this right. Common pain point number 6 is around compliance issues. The typical issue is you've got inconsistent shipping label or document formats, and that leads to shipment delays or fines due to the lack of regulatory compliance for certain countries or regions that you're shipping in or out of. Also, customer rejections of shipments at their receiving dock because you didn't meet their unique requirements. As an example, like I know from past experience working with big companies like Walmart, they have very specific 2D barcode formats, other fields they require on their labels and their documents. And if your shipment shows up and the 2D barcode isn't the right spec or you don't have the right fields, they'll reject that shipment. They'll return it to you and won't even take it. Root cause of some of this pain is generally manual and one-off creation of your labels and docs. It's especially an issue if you've outsourced your manufacturing or your logistics to many different partners, or if you're shipping to or from many different regions and countries. You've got a pretty long list of requirements, different specs and formats of your docs and labels that you're trying to manage, and also doing that across many partners. One example, years ago I worked with a large global tech company, had hundreds of shipping sites around the world, and at one time the process was you would send a big, thick Word document outlining the required label and doc formats and the specs to each partner. And you can imagine the Word doc was in English. Many of these partners, English was not their first language. Partners would take that big, thick Word doc. They'd do their best to replicate the label and doc formats. Often there were some pretty major inconsistencies across different partners. Some of them got it right. It looked great. Some of them were off. These discrepancies caused shipment delays, customer rejections like I described with the Walmart example, and it just didn't look professional. If you've got the same big customer and they're receiving shipments from multiple partners, but it's all your company that's shipping these products to them, and all the docs and labels look different, it's not real professional. It also causes them some issues and inefficiencies at receiving. Whenever a local country regulation changed, or if you had a new, unique customer requirement, then you'd update the big, thick Word document. You'd send it out to all the partners, and you can imagine it took a lot of resources, took a lot of time, both on the company side and the partner side, to make changes, test them out, maintain the updated specs. Finally, we created and implemented a centralized electronic repository and an automated process that would share the most current label and doc formats and specs with the partners. and it also helped to ensure that the output from each partner was 100% consistent and accurate. It was highly successful. We after that, were able to make, test, and implement format changes to labels and docs across many partners at the same time in about 24 hours. It was a huge savings. So I'm rolling into the solution here. You can imagine the direction it's going to go based on that example. But a good solution for these kind of compliance issues is a standalone or centralized label and document management solution, or a solution that you can integrate into your collaboration portal. There's a couple of leading providers out there for label and document management solutions. Loftware is one. Bartender, the company is Seagull Scientific. They have a solution called Bartender. Those are both great solutions to manage docs and labels. Some collaboration portals also have the ability and have the doc and label management capabilities integrated right into the portal, so you can actually print compliant docs and labels that match your standards right out of that portal, and your partners can print those right out of the portal. Bottom line, it's a mistake to underestimate the importance of a solid label and document management solution. Many folks treat it as an afterthought. It's not the sexiest part of the business, but major large initiatives and projects have failed or had problems before because there's a small issue with a document or label. So this slide recaps the 6 common pain points that we discussed and their solutions. I'm not going to read through the slide. You can see them here. It's just a summary. Some of the common themes across all of these solutions that we've discussed are, manual is generally painful, slow, expensive. Manual is bad, automated is good. You generally want to get to common business processes, clearly documented expectations and metrics with your partners, and integrated systems with workflow automation and alerts, and also automated real-time dashboards and metrics. If you can do that, you're going to be extremely successful in your outsourcing relationships and meet your objectives. This next slide summarizes some of the key benefits of increased integration with your 3PLs and partners. Lower cost, top of the list. Process automation typically saves 40 to 60% of operating or admin costs just because of getting rid of the manual labor, the efficiency, the speed. Also reduced inventory levels. If you can cut down that cycle time, make it more efficient, less errors, you can hold less inventory at your partner site and your site. You get the increased real-time visibility and control across multiple systems, multiple geographies and sites. Better relationships with your key partners. That comes from better communication. You're more tightly tied together. Things run more smoothly. Also improved customer satisfaction, more on-time delivery, better quality, more accuracy, and also, as discussed, increased supply chain agility or responsiveness. A lot of that comes from the shorter cycle times. You can react much more quickly to unexpected changes or events, and you can also get alerts to quickly see some of those exceptions and take action quickly. Shorter cycle times, and as discussed in the last section, increased regulatory compliance. So if you have some of these pain points that we've been discussing, or if you're interested in realizing the benefits of increased integration with your partners, perhaps we can help you out. I work for Take Supply Chain. We're the sponsor of this webinar, and we do offer solutions in this space. Our solutions are focused on trading partner collaboration, process efficiency, automation. We focus on working with manufacturers and distributors. We do have software and services along those lines, and we can deliver our solutions in the cloud or on-premise, whichever you prefer, and they also do work well with mobile devices. Our company is located in Austin, Texas. We've been in business for about 20 years, and we've got a lot of happy customers. We have a product called OneSCM. That's the name of our branded solution in the trading partner collaboration and process automation space. It does have very flexible integration options with your systems, partner systems, whether it's EDI, web portal, other methods, and we do offer a full suite of functional capabilities that are part of that portal. Some of them are listed there in the box on the right within the slide. Some of the key benefits of OneSCM: it does have an excellent workflow automation engine. It's very advanced. It helps you to get to that true management by exception, where you can set up your own rules, your own parameters to make sure it's your business process. Your people then are only notified when exceptions occur. They don't have to do the transactional work, but if exceptions occur, they can quickly be notified, whether it's via a mobile device or via email, text, whatever. OneSCM complements your existing systems. It doesn't replace them. It's not a rip and replace. Works with multiple different ERPs. It has a closed loop procure-to-pay cycle. That just means, all the way from sharing purchase orders or sales orders with partners, having them give you acknowledgments back, creating package tracking numbers, shipment notifications, all the way through invoicing and doing automated invoicing and all the various workflows and automation around those processes. You can implement OneSCM in a phased approach. That's very common. Target your biggest pain point first, keep the scope smaller, more manageable, not big bang. You can validate the ROI at each phase, make sure you're happy that you're getting the return on your investment, and then move on from there to other areas. As I stated, you can implement this via the cloud very quickly, or on-premise, or with mobile devices, and we do have a full service team that can help you out with your partner onboarding and help you out with training. Again, if you have any of these pain points, want to improve your collaboration, we'd love to help you out. So shoot us an email or give us a call. That was the last slide that we prepared to discuss, so we're now ready to get into the Q&A. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.